From the Denver Broncos Media Center, welcome to Broncos Country Tonight.
Welcome to Broncos Country Tonight as we break down the Broncos' loss to the Las Vegas Raiders 22-16 in overtime. Benjamin, another game where the Broncos are up 10-0. That's the third of the season. Another overtime loss. That is the third of the season. And the Broncos, of course, unfortunately found some new ways to lose this one. And I say that there were some positives, right? We could definitely get into some positives on the offense, the decision to go with Clint Kubiak calling plays. But overall, what's your perspective on this game?
Well, fourth time they've scored exactly 16 points. What is it? The ninth time they've gone 19 or 18 or less
in regulation. Right?
Regulation, just it's just baffling how bad that this offense has been. And yeah, there are some high watermark notes. The first half, being able to move the ball more efficiently, that was nice. But in the end, I looked up as the clock was hitting zero in regulation, and the score said 16-16. I'm like, wait a minute, didn't he just say somebody has to win this one? Which, of course, the Raiders did in overtime. But, my problems here are the situational football. This one was on coaching. They had a chance to win it, and they blew it. The coaching should have told the quarterback in no uncertain terms that if you were calling the pass play here, which they called.
Yeah, out of the 2 minute.
And if you
warning.
are not 100% sure that you're going to complete this pass, fall down with the run and fall down with the football. Stay in bounds. They absolutely must eat the clock. There were opportunities earlier in the game for points. You hand it off to Melvin Gordon at the goal line. Probably should have gone with Latavius Murray again. Coaching mistake. Then you get the field goal blocks right after that. So you went from 7 points to 3 points to no points. That could have been the difference in regulation. You go back further, and you saw them accepting penalties and giving opponents free downs for a minuscule amount of yardage. The analytics say that those were laughably bad moves in terms of percentages. So I don't understand. But coaching, Nathaniel Hackett got to be the head coach of this game and not call any plays, and somehow situational football got worse. Yeah,
there's certainly things we're going to look back on. Let's go there to the decision to go to Clint Kubiak calling the plays on the offense. Russ completed over 77% of his passes, which is the most he's done over the course of the season. Second most completions he's had in the season since the Seattle game. Mm-hmm. I guess that also shows you, since he only had 24, how bad it's been for the offense. But the point being is there's a lot of high efficiency. We did talk about coming into basically every game this year that it just seemed like they made everything hard on themselves, that there were no layups, there were no easy plays, and when teams would bring blitzes, there weren't really many hot routes. In this case, when the Raiders did bring a blitz, there was an answer for it. So the one thing I did like about the sequencing, at least, they had a couple of 3-and-outs here, but again, considering how many they usually have in most games, that's maybe a little bit of a tip in the positive direction. I thought overall the offense functioned better. I think that's something encouraging to build off of. What did you think?
Well, I did, and it certainly was interesting that they got more productivity out of it with Cortland and a bunch of rookies. Kendall Hinton obviously was out there, but a bunch of rookies really. Brandon Johnson got quite a few snaps. I still don't understand the limited snap count for Jalen Virgil. Yeah. I believe he got 7 snaps on offense. That's to me, that's malpractice. That's the one true deep threat that you have on this football team, and you're telling me you can't have 5-10 plays for that guy to go out there and take the top off. That just doesn't make sense to me. You don't target him once or twice a game just to remind safeties that they've got to play back. That doesn't make sense to me. I did like a lot of the short rhythm stuff early to kind of get Russ in play. In that first half was honestly his best half of football as a Bronco, but at the end of the day, the Broncos scored 16 points.
Right.
That's the first time the Raiders have held a team under 20 points all season.
Yeah, no, I'm with you on that. And again, the results are what they are, right? I mean, you still only scored 16 points. You change the play caller and the sequencer, and it's still the same result. But again, we can acknowledge that if Melvin Gordon doesn't fumble there, they certainly were going to put up more points. They just obviously that's just more indicative, I think, of the entire team, maybe the culture, if you will, of you just find ways to lose games when you have opportunities to really put your foot on an opponent's throat.
Yeah, and that's the thing. They had opportunities to win this football game. They had opportunities, and the coach Nathaniel Hackett keeps getting up there and saying that we wanted to make a first down to win the game. Well, you're not good enough to be that team, so play the percentages. You've not been good enough all year. You've made this call all year, and you have failed at it every single time. So what are you doing? Play the percentages. The percentages will run the football. And I just don't understand how a head coach with his, frankly, job on the line is sitting there making laughably bad calls like this, insisting that they go for the first down. They're not that team. You're trying to eke out a fourth win on the season.
I liked the decision to try it. It's the execution of it. But
you have to make that clear to your quarterback. Right. If you're not 100%.
Well, but he said it after the game, so that becomes the sort of where's the breakdown.
But Russ got up there and said there was no discussion about a run play. So they were all in on this pass to begin with.
Yeah, something's weird there because Coach Hackett got up there right after the game saying, no, we talked about that, and we said that we have to keep the clock running one way or another. If it's not there, stay in bounds. So it's a weird deal. I don't want to get into the he said thing in this because I don't really know. Mm-hmm. But the fact is, you're right. The odds are, and everybody, this is the one thing I think is united all media in Denver. Everybody agrees that was the wrong execution, one way or the other.
Yeah, I mean, in the end, it was the wrong. Going for it, with this team at this juncture, going for the pass play was the wrong call. It was. Run some kind of option play if you're going to run something, if you want to do something, or you want to do a little razzle-dazzle, do a reverse that'll eat up a little extra clock with a Montrell, something like that. You want to do a little razzle-dazzle, fine. But throwing the football on a third, and I can't remember how long it was. Was it 8? Third and 8?
Oh, it was like 3rd and 9, 3rd and 10.
Yeah. Is it an improbably low percentage play anyway? Even the best of circumstances, and you're not a good enough football team to bank on executing that. So play the percentages.
Right. Let's go to the defensive side of the ball because I think obviously a lot of the focus today is going to be on the offense with the change of play caller, Russ's performance. Definitely, we can talk a little bit about Melvin Gordon getting waived, but with the defensive side of the ball, this was the toughest performance for Pat Surtain. Now it's not all on him, and certainly I liked Justin Simmons in the locker room afterwards when the media was swarming around Pat Surtain to get the press conference going. He said, hey, guys, just remember, it's not on one player. And that is 100% right. You can point to several moments throughout the game. The Broncos had a tough time getting pressure. Josie Jewell, obviously in coverage on Josh Jacobs there at the end of the game on the wheel route. That was a tough moment. There were plenty of tough moments. The first Devontae Adams touchdown, Kareem Jackson was a little late getting over there.
Right.
So there are plenty of moments. It's not all on Pat Surtain, yet there were moments in this game you definitely can assign to him.
Because of the 2 touchdowns, it's going to be glaring. But the first touchdown wasn't Surtain's fault at all. He was in trail tech. Adams was split out wide and showing the deep over, and Kareem Jackson was out of position. The second one, Surtain been on a double move against one of the top 5 wide receivers in football. And even the best corner is going to have a play where you mess up and you guess wrong. It just happens. It just happened in a big moment, so it looks bigger than it is. Does that suck for Surtain? Yeah, absolutely. But in the end, Pat Surtain's still a very good corner.
Incredibly good
I hope
corner.
this doesn't eat away at his confidence and all that kind of stuff because as a corner, you need to have that confidence. But, the defense, I thought, didn't get enough pressure. I thought that was the
biggest one for me.
That was the big one today. You did not get enough pressure. You still surrendered way too much yardage to Josh Jacobs, who I don't know what the Broncos did to him in a past life, but he is making them pay for it every time he plays them.
Yeah, they were just eating up yards, eating up clock. It ended up looking a little more balanced, but we looked at it after the first quarter. They had over 11 minutes of time of possession in the first quarter. Now, I know they got the opening kickoff, but they were just moving the ball. They had no problem with that, and it was only because of their own mistakes that they ended up bogging down in some of those, and they had a missed field goal. Mm-hmm. But the fact is that they didn't have a problem moving against this very elite defense.
Right. And they like I said, it could have been worse. They could have won it in regulation. Missed field goal. So I thought the defense, it might not have been their best day. I thought they played the Raiders better the last time, even though they gave up more points last time. Part of that was off the fumble and all that kind of stuff. But, they gave up more points last time, but I thought they played better in the last one. This one, there were just some missed assignments. And I thought, the bright spot, I thought Damari Mathis played well for what he was asked to do.
Oh, that PBU there towards the end of the game.
I thought he played very well for what he was asked to do, and he's growing into the job. I think there's a lot of confidence in him, kind of going forward. I think you found a guy, and you try to restructure Darby, and I think you got a hell of a cornerback group going forward. But they've got to figure something out with the edge rush. They're not getting enough pressure. That's been an Achilles heel for the Broncos for years, since Ware and Vaughn and Barrett were running the show here. They haven't gotten enough pressure.
Well, even when they were bringing extra rushers, like they were bringing Josie, and they just were not getting it. And that for me was the most baffling thing.
And I get Derek Carr gets it out quick. I get that.
Yeah.
But you got to do better than that, especially against that offensive line. 1 sack. That's a wrong answer.
It can't be the case, right? Yep. And so Derek Carr had an opportunity to dice you up. Josh Jacobs was having a lot of success in the run game. Legitimately, the things that you just could not do. So again, I know there's some people saying, well, this was on the defense. Well, it's just a team loss. I mean,
well,
in the end,
is.
Yeah, special teams even. Montreal has the muff at the goal line there on the kickoff. Right to come. I mean, you're coming out of halftime after you had the fumble with Melvin Gordon, and then you had the missed field goal. The very next play is a muffed kickoff from Montreal. I mean, it's just, again, for this team, that's what happens. It's just one thing after another, and it's like once that doubt starts creeping into the persona of this team, it just sort of becomes something else for everybody on the team.
And they're not good enough to have anything to bank on. They're just not. And I hate to say that, but that's the truth. And until they get better and establish a winning culture, and that winning culture is established by coaches putting guys in the highest percentage probability to be able to make a play and get a win, and we don't have that.
And you also simultaneously need Russ to help with that. And he's got to inject a little bit of that, and plays like that coming out of the 2-minute warning. That's not it. That Russell Wilson needs to know better. He needs to know that situation better.
He's been around the league long enough. He should know better, and that's the other part of that. But at this point, I'm gonna default to a position of criticizing the coach for not making that clear. I mean, it's a basic fundamental thing. The coach called a pass play, so you had to know in the back of your mind, you had to emphasize that. If the play isn't there, you've got to get down. That's what you do as a coach.
Your advantage.
Remind your tired player who's been gutting it out all game and having a pretty good game. Remind him, hey, look, this is how we're playing this. We want to get the first down, but if it isn't there, just follow it and eat it.
Yep, the advantage is the clock.
Right.
At that moment, you have the lead, and the advantage is the clock. And you have your elite defense heading out on the field, in which you'd love to be able to get a stop there. So, again, there's a lot of things to sort of point out with this game. After the game, of course, they waive Melvin Gordon. We find out about Chase Edmonds. He got a high ankle sprain. He's going to be out for a little while. But waiving Melvin Gordon goes to that sort of accountability portion of it. Now, I know there's going to be a lot of people saying, well, you could have done this a long time ago. I do wonder if the injury to Javonte, because remember, that was the fumble in the Raiders game, if the injury to Javonte maybe spooked them a little bit, or maybe they thought, no, we can't waive Melvin Gordon now because Javonte Williams just got injured and we need him right now. But at some point, this is the sort of fascinating play here, because at some point Melvin's probably going to fumble it again. I mean, it's just kind of what he's done over the course of his career. That's 5 fumbles now, including this one. Now they got it back, but still 5 fumbles. And now he's a free agent. They
bet on the player. They said, hey, look, we're going to put our faith in you not to let us down. And they went with him until they couldn't go with him anymore. I don't fault them for that. Whatever you think of Melvin Gordon, this city never warmed to him. He was pretty good for a couple of years. This year was a disaster. It was an abject disaster, and he cost them football games. And so, end of the Melvin Gordon tenure is never going to be looked back favorably here in Denver. I think they made the right call in waiving him at this point, and I think this was the right point to do it. I don't think doing it any earlier was the right point.
I don't either.
I think if you're George Payton, you establishing a culture of family and trust in that locker room, you say, look, I'm going to give you every opportunity until I can't give you an opportunity. Melvin, I can't do it anymore. I've tried. I can't do it anymore.
Yeah, and I'm 100% with you. And I remember getting into it with Alfred Williams on KOA after that fumble, and he was kind of like, I'm basically done here. And for me, I was like, okay, well, I mean, the way the coach has relayed how that meeting went, he says he still wants to believe in Melvin, give him one more chance. Again, for some people, that was a bridge too far. At this point, it just confirms everything when he has this kind of fumble, when it has this kind of thing. They were going to be first and goal at the 1-yard line with at least 20-some seconds and a timeout. They were going to have plenty of opportunity to punch that in, go up 17-7 before the half, and maybe have been able to close it out with a drive right out of halftime. But the point is, they didn't do that. They move on from Melvin Gordon, and now I guess we're going to see a little more Marlon Mack is going to be probably the backup to Latavius Murray, would be my guess.
Right. We haven't seen Mack get a steady stream of carries in the NFL for a while. It'd be nice to kind of see what he's still got left, and we can have the return of the Mack around here, at least for some
I knew you were waiting for that.
Music.
I knew you were waiting for that. All right. We'll obviously continue to follow what's going to happen with the Broncos, including their next game against the Carolina Panthers. For Benjamin Allbright, I'm Ryan Edwards. Thanks for watching Broncos Country Tonight.
Denver's going to win it. You can stand up and salute in Denver, and you got the world champions that live in your town.